Hello, in this video I want to show you how I use the RJS Sampling Suite to create sampled instruments. RJS Sampling Suite is a collection of custom actions for Reaper that aim to automate the tedious and boring parts of processing samples, such as chopping and labeling. For this video I sampled an acoustic guitar, and I think it makes for a good demonstration because it's not the cleanest recording, which causes some complications along the way. If we look closer, we can see that there's noise in front of some of the notes. This is from the guitar pick touching the string. We don't want that noise in our samples. Let's open the action menu where you'll find the custom actions. I will choose and run the chopping script. I'll set the minimum sample length to 100 milliseconds and the start detection sensitivity to a less sensitive setting. The script creates a track onto which all the leftover pieces are placed. Soloing and boosting this track is a convenient way of assessing what's been left out. And here is the actual sample. By looking at the cutouts track, it's easy to see that some of the samples have not been successfully chopped. I'll select the items and move them onto a new track. I'll then move the new track on top because the scripts always process the items on the first track. This time we will use the medium sensitivity setting. Then I'll just move the items on the main track and all the chopping is done. Next we're gonna label the items based on pitch detection. I'll select the script from the action menu and run it. The script colors the items as they are assigned to MIDI notes. The script also creates a track that has corresponding MIDI items for each sample. The MIDI items can be used for correcting the labeling and also for tuning. Listening to the samples together with the synthesizer notes is a fast way to spot problems. In this case we hear out of tuneness that we can try to fix with a tuning script. I think that's better. Next, let's move the items into an arrangement I call vertical view. In vertical view, each sample is placed on its own track. The view zooms in so we can clearly see the start of the samples, which helps check and adjust the chopping results. The marker lines give a sense of scale. We have lines for 1 millisecond, 3 milliseconds, 5 milliseconds, and lastly 10 milliseconds. Like many things, you can customize these lines by modifying the script file. On Windows, I'm holding the Alt key while dragging to move the contents inside the items. These adjustments are fairly easy to make because you have the visual reference from the other samples. You don't have to think much, you just match the pattern of the neighboring samples. Because of the lower sensitivity setting that we chose, we have some inaccuracies with the quieter notes. Still, these are pretty minor adjustments and we're going for high precision. This level of precision is difficult to achieve with manual chopping. This is also better than what you get with Reaper's own dynamic split feature. Out of all of the editing steps, chopping is perhaps the most challenging. Labeling is predictable, eventually you will have the right label for each sample. But with chopping, a good end result is not guaranteed. Manual chopping is one of the most tiring editing work you can do, making it prone to errors and many inaccuracies. That is why I think the chopping algorithm is one of the most valuable pieces of the RJS Sampling Suite. Our project here actually needed more than the average amount of manual adjustments. Still, we managed to do all the work in 1 minute and 20 seconds. And now we can leave the vertical view. Next we're gonna take a sample inventory. The sample inventory tells if the sample count matches the plan that we have for the instrument. For every note I recorded 3 velocity layers and 2 round robins. Based on the numbers we give, the script will calculate the amount of samples needed and point out any discrepancies. In our case here, the script has identified a few problems as the sample count doesn't match the plan. The script uses markers to point out the problems. These are not real samples. Looks like the next one is a mislabeled sample. Let's listen to make sure. A correction is made by changing the MIDI item below. Here I'm using the MIDI item of the neighboring sample just for convenience. Next we have more noise. I think this was a failed attempt at playing a note. Looks like we have one more mislabeling ahead. This is just a bad sample. I'm gonna duplicate the other sample and use its MIDI item too. Now that we have fixed the MIDI items, we still need to run an update script to fix the actual sample labeling. Looks like we have one more problem here. We need to remove this MIDI item. Now we run the update script one more time and we should be ready for another sample inventory. Let's run the script and type in the numbers we used last time. Now the sample count matches the plan and we're ready to move on to the next phase. The final script in the process will prepare the samples for exporting. In effect, it builds your instrument as it calculates the note and velocity ranges of the samples. To make this work, the samples on the first track need to go from low to high velocity and the round-robin samples need to be next to each other. The script moves the samples into a grid-like formation that includes all the information needed for naming the samples. The region markers hold the information about the MIDI note ranges. The track names determine the velocity ranges. Now we're ready to export the samples. The samples are named based on the track they're on and the region they're in. Processing the 90 samples took about 5 minutes. In addition to processing speed, this workflow makes the project easier to manage. Saving the project with a different file name after every major step and especially before arranging is a good idea. That way you can revisit the different phases of the process easily. Another useful tip is to place effects on the master track, so you can process the samples with those while rendering. There's also a script that can change the naming convention if you want to customize the file names to target a certain sample, for example. We have now created 2 groups into Kontakt and it's time to drag into samples. I have already set up Kontakt with the correct automapping settings. All I need to do is to click once and the samples are mapped correctly. Now we just do the same with the other round-robin group. Separating the round-robin samples into different folders makes the project easier to manage. Now the instrument is ready, let's try it. There's more information in the video description if you want to try the RJS Sampling Suite. I hope this was useful, thanks for watching.